Recorded from a doorbell camera in Sunrise, Florida, 3 lights float as more or less an equilateral triangle before separating. What is assumed to be the same event by a different witness was also captured.
You cannot tell me.
By speeding the footage up, the synced and fluid motion between the objects becomes even more apparent. It almost looks as if they are attached together in some way. They make an almost perfect rotation as one. This illustration helps us to comprehend the physics-breaking movements of the UFOs documented by the DoD.
At 13,000 miles an hour and change directions instantly. We fly the SR-71 at 3,200 miles an hour. If you wanted to take a right-hand turn, it would take you roughly half the state of Ohio to do it. And yet what we're seeing are objects that can do 90-degree turns instantly.
The amount of G's exerted after a turn like this would instantly destroy any occupants 10 times over, along with vaporizing the craft.
And we're not talking about speeds of 3,200 miles an hour. They've been clocked at over 13,000.
Recorded over Hungary, footage of what looks to be a cylindrical-shaped object flying over the countryside. Not a UFO, but some great footage of a meteorological phenomenon known as a crown flash. Were some ancient or recent structures built to hide evidence of non-human material? Investigative journalist and UFO enthusiast Ross Coulthart suggested this in a recent interview.
People are going to question what I'm about to say. What if some of that is so big it can't be moved?
Is that what you're saying, Ross? Is that what you've been told?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
How big is big?
Big. So big, they built a building over it. In a country outside of the United States of America.
Susi. ¿Y eso es por donde Pedro? ¿Usted, Susana?
Güey.
No, se está encargando. ¿Y eso es por donde Pedro?
Footage of a U.S. military-certified UFO was released at the Senate hearings earlier this year. They don't know what the object is or what it could be.
Top of the screen, there it goes, and then the camera will slew to follow it. You'll see it pop in and out of the field of view there. This is essentially all of the data we have associated with this event from some years ago.
U.S. intelligence states that over 50% of UFO witness reports from aviation employees are of the metallic orb class. Next, I have added a handful of sightings that struck me as similar. What the uploader describes as vessels floating through his house. It also appears to phase through the wall with zero resistance. The European Space Agency captured this scene from the surface of a comet. With the understandably frantic and rushed recording job done here, it's easy to miss what was truly impressive about this footage. But what was almost hidden at first is clearly exposed thanks to some great tracking done by QSEC. Look close at the right-hand side of the most predominant UFO. 5 less obvious objects can be seen in alignment. They are then seen through the trees and right up until the end of the clip, where they appear to form a V shape right before flying off. CGI is a possibility here, but OP gives his opinion on why he thinks it's unlikely. Quote, I think CGI can be most likely ruled out here, since several of the UAPs are barely visible through the trees. This is very hard to achieve unless you have the trees as a static front layer. Since the trees are moving and are correctly following camera parallax, the only other option is for manual editing, which is quite hard and doesn't seem to be the case here. The recording job is also not amazing. The camera is spun around and it's hard to tell what to focus on. With most CGI work, subtlety is rare. You usually see everything the creator wanted you to see on the first viewing, with little to no obstructions. This footage, however, is quite the opposite. The profile that posted this footage also seems to be a legit personal account who sporadically posts videos of his dogs every few months. It doesn't really make much sense as to why he would randomly create high-quality CGI footage just to leave on a profile he barely pays attention to. Just to reiterate, this doesn't mean the clip is 100% legit, just that these reasons help add to it being authentic. Here you can see UFOs pulsing with light and then fading into the darkness.
Love, it's moving so fast.
Yeah. Like, there's no way I can explain that.
That's the UFO.
It kind of looks like a hospital heart rate monitor in the sky.
That's a UFO.
5 pulses were recorded before the video ends. In some of the biggest UFO alien news of all time, that in my opinion didn't receive nearly enough coverage, it's been disclosed that, quote, non-human life has been recovered from crashed crafts.
If you believe we have crashed craft, stated earlier, do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
As I've stated publicly already in my News Nation interview, biologics came with some of these recoveries, yeah.
Were they, I guess, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human, and that was the assessment of people with direct knowledge on the program I talked to that are currently still on the program.
When you say crash retrieval, what do you mean?
These are retrieving non-human origin technical vehicles, you know, call it spacecraft if you will. It's probably not the right parlance, but no kidding, non-human, exotic origin vehicles that have either landed or crashed.
We have spacecraft from another species.
We do, yeah.
UFO caught from the cockpit of a small aircraft. I have also added sharpening and stabilization to better see the object. Video of what looks to be a triangle UFO sitting stationary over a rural area in Ontario, Canada.
It's just hovering in place. What is that? Look at the lights all around it.
I made sure to stabilize the footage so we can get a better look at the activity going on in the center of the craft. The footage is around 10 years old, so before the use of drones really took off. The uploader's description states, "Don't got much to say about this video other than when my dad originally sent it to me. I felt like it had to be a UFO, and there's nothing else that seems to explain it. Canada is notorious for sightings, and I myself have seen a few. This was taken way before drones were being used regularly, and I'd say the video is easily 10 years old." Pulled from a US news channel, footage of an object instantly accelerating over the city of Boston. Dismissed by some to be a camera glitch that caused the stream to freeze. The explanation was quickly debunked by the uploader, who shows us here that the rest of the world is still in motion whilst the UFO is paused. No UFOs here, but some amazing footage of what it's like to fly a plane through a snowstorm. A U.S. news host describes an advanced tech defense field that is thought to surround some UFOs with an undetectable bubble, which scrambles the brains of those curious enough to wander too close.
We got a call from this guy who's a tenured Stanford medical school professor. He comes on and he's like, 11 years ago, the US government reached out to me because I'm an expert on head injuries, on brain injuries, traumatic brain injuries. And they had all these court cases from families of US servicemen, over 100, who'd been killed by UFOs. So at nuclear missile bases in the upper Midwest, for example, nuclear-powered aircraft carriers, nuclear-powered submarines are all getting buzzed by these objects. And in a number of cases, these things have landed on military bases, including famously in Germany, in West Germany in the 70s.
I wanted to give more details about what incident he was referencing here. However, I was unable to find the case. He could have possibly been getting it mixed up with the Rendlesham Forest or Bentwaters incident, but I'm unsure. If you know, please leave a comment.
And servicemen have approached them, and they approach and they get traumatic brain injury, or they're killed. And he studied their brains.
There are numerous other reports of encounters with UFOs ending with the instant death of the witnesses. But due to limited information and possible redactions, the exact causes aren't disclosed. Deep-sea drone operator Chase Bentley, with over 5,000 hours experience in the field, captures footage of what he can only describe as a USO. Chase was interviewed about the sighting, where he was quizzed on what makes this footage out of the ordinary.
Why is it significant that something, mechanical would be down that deep?
It seems like it'd be easy to put a drone or something 5,600 feet underwater until you really understand what's behind doing something like that. And to have something moving down there under its own power, the battery power would be immense. Also, this was tetherless. Without a tether, it would have no human control.
The look, shape, and movement of the object is enough to rule out any sea life. Its speed also rules out any junk/inanimate object that may be drifting around down there.
How do we know this is not organic? This isn't a fish or something like that?
Well, the video footage, albeit not the clearest, it's pretty clear to see that it's not a fish. We spend thousands and thousands of hours looking underwater and around these areas. We know what the fish look like, and this pretty clearly isn't fish. Lots of people that have seen the video have 30, 40 years in the industry, and they're saying, well, it's not a fish, but I don't know what it is. It's really out of the bounds of what I think we have technology of making right now. If somebody gave me a $10 million budget and said, make this thing, I don't think it's possible.
Chase goes on to talk about the encounters other experts working in the industry have had with USOs. I have left a link to the full interview in the description. definitely worth a watch. A viscous smoke-like web moves over a lake in Australia. A convincing explanation is yet to be given. Some dismissed it as a smudge on a window. Here, I track the position to show the slowed distortion/spread of the formation.